Hello everybody, welcome to Simulated Heaven. I thought I'd showcase or introduce you guys to a game I've been playing called Simraceway. So I'm going to just start up. I'm in a car called an Asphalt Modified, which they just introduced recently, and I'm driving at Watkins Glen. Now, just to warn you guys, I've been having some problems with the recording of the gameplay, in that for some reason this game does not like to be recorded. I finally worked out using XSplit with DxTory was a good way to record the game, but even now the game usually runs a lot smoother than you will see on the video. On the video the game looks pretty stuttery or low FPS. It's not like this usually, it's just recording. And like I said, this was the best option I could find. So here we are at Watkins Glen driving the Asphalt Modified. Now, the first thing you'll notice about this game is the graphics are they're pretty okay for a simulator game, I have to say. Pretty okay, but because it's based on the G-Motor 1 R-Factor 1 engine, what that means is the graphics obviously are not absolutely amazing. Like, they're not as clear and clean as iRacing, the textures are not as good on the tracks, you know, but I would have to say, for what it is, it's pretty sweet, it's pretty nice. You know, I don't find the graphics to be an issue really. Now, one thing you might have noticed, the sound design in this game I think is really good. So you can probably hear the car, and I nearly went off the track there. You can probably hear the engine here of this car. As you can see, sounds pretty amazing. You know, they've really done a good job with the sound design. Now the car modelling. Now, bear in mind this car is a very cheap car in the game. I think it cost 30 cents. Oh, and I was not concentrating. See, that's what happens when you talk about money. Yeah, you go crazy and crash. But yeah, I think this was a very cheap car. 30 cents is what I bought this car for. So for the money that I paid, this car I think is pretty decent, but because of the price, I think that's why the car modelling is, I would say, pretty basic. I mean, the dashboard looks pretty nice, but it is definitely, well, it's pretty kind of clean looking, but it's definitely not up there with the best kind of modelled cars in the world. But like I said, you have to bear in mind this is a cheap car. Now, they do like to vary the price of their cars quite a lot. So you can go from a car which costs you 30 cents to a car that can cost you, I think the highest price one is about 30 or 40 US dollar. So that's quite a crazy kind of change, if you know what I mean. Like, that's quite a big range of pricing. However, I would like to say all the cars I've bought that are the more expensive cars in the game, I have to say I've been impressed with every single one of them. Some of the cheaper cars in the game, the modelling has been slightly disappointing. I feel like they've been working on it. Like, some of the early vehicles that I got, like there's a BMW M1 Pro car, and I really don't like the interior of that car. So I feel like as time has gone on, they've put a bit more effort into their cheaper cars, but you definitely have to bear in mind the cheaper cars quite often are not as well made as the more expensive cars. Now, you might be saying, oh, that's crazy that one car in this game can cost you 30 or 40 US, but how this game works is you don't have to pay a subscription fee. You can play the game effectively for free. They have free content in terms of, there's a car which is a Mitsubishi Evo, and I nearly did the same again on this corner, and the Mitsubishi Evo is a free vehicle, and you don't have to pay for any of the tracks. All of the tracks are free. You don't have to pay a sub fee, and that rhymes, by the way. So the only thing you have to pay for in this game are the cars. So I think that's a really interesting way of doing it. So it kind of makes this game as expensive or as cheap as you like to make it, especially with the wide-ranging prices that you have. It means that you can actually, if you're really careful.
Alright, that was a 2:11.
And as you can hear, for some reason, you have an Australian guy as your pit guy. But yeah, if you think about it carefully and plan the cars you purchase, you can actually play this game with all the tracks because they're all free, and you can, you know, do a fair amount of racing and hot lapping using quite cheap cars, which means that it can be quite a cheap experience. Like the game can be quite cheap to play is what I'm trying to say, which I think, you know, is quite a good thing for those of you that maybe can't afford iRacing, or you can't afford even to buy R Factor 2 for like, I think the lifetime one is $80, and the 1 year R Factor 2 is about $40, so it's even cheaper than that if you're very careful with the cars that you buy. I find a lot of people are still playing the free kind of content, but yeah, also another way you can pay for the cars in this game is you can actually, every time that you run a lap in the game, you get credits, some kind of credit, which you can then use towards buying cars. Now, to be fair, you would have to do quite a lot of laps for you to get the expensive cars this way, but it's a really good way of getting the very cheap cars. Like this car that I'm in now, because it's such a cheap car, a lot of people can probably buy this car with using the credits they have from just doing races and doing hot lapping events. So, you know, it can be a very cheap alternative to iRacing. Is it as good as iRacing in terms of the simulation? No. Like I said, it's a bit more like a GT5 kind of game.
Alright, that was
so it definitely is not as hardcore a sim as iRacing. Also, the online racing component is not as good because, first of all, there's some kind of a skill required to get into some races. They have a thing they call Squillant or something, or Skillant, and you will basically get this as you improve, it will go up. And there are some people who have races and they will say you have to have a certain skill to join a race, but from my experience at the moment, the online races, it's quite rare that this really affects you, and you often find yourself racing with players that are new players with low skills. So the organisation of the racing is nowhere near as good as in iRacing, where people have to get licenses in order to do races with certain cars. So you can find sometimes you're in races with, you know, idiots who don't know what they're doing and who will basically crash. And just as I said that was karma. Just as I said idiots, I actually crashed myself. I smashed my car into the wall. That's funny. Karma, eh? It gets you every time. But and also, I find, like I briefly mentioned earlier, I find that there's a lot of people who play this game and they just use the free content. So that means that quite often when I go into quick race events, I can't actually find a decent race. Like most of the people are in the free car, and I find that really boring to everyday race to free car. You know, whoops, and I crashed again. Wow, I'm really failing right now. Yeah, so let me just pull over, because it's very hard for me to drive and talk at the same time. So yeah, that can be a bit of an issue, really. The fact that a lot of people are still using the free content. I will leave this, and I'll show you what I mean right now. This second. So the quick race here is basically how you do online racing. So you go to quick race, and well, the only reason it is slightly different right now is because it's a Tuesday, and they have a thing on a Tuesday that's called Test Drive Tuesday, which means that you can buy a car for half price and they will let you test drive it for free. So the car they have right now is the McLaren here, So it's free only for today, so people can try the car, and they're hoping obviously that a lot of people will actually buy the car at half price. So as you can see, that most of the people in the game are on the free stuff. So the MP4 here, this indie race on the oval, is free. This one at Silverstone is free, and they've got 34 people in this one, 18 in this one. This one down here, the Evolution X, is also free, and they've got 11 guys. Now the Formula 3 is not free, and that's got 10 guys, so that's quite a rarity that you find like a race with not free stuff which has quite a number of people. And then you can see here there's a BMW which is not free, and the Charger, and they have 0 and 1. So yeah, that's one issue I'm finding right now, that a lot of people still do the free content, so it's very hard for you to get decent online races. And also, like I said, the organisation of the races isn't as good as in something like iRacing. But then again, I suppose you can't really expect that on a game that's quite a lot cheaper, really. Okay, so one of the things that actually kept me playing this game quite a lot is the events. Basically in here you can see that there are hot lapping events which I find really interest me. So basically the one that I was just in is this one, the asphalt modified, and there's quite a lot, so you basically scroll through these and it's hot lapping. But the thing that makes it slightly different is, so for example, I raced this one a long time ago, and if I choose it, it will actually show me where I am, my position. Unfortunately, I'm not very good in this vehicle, so I'm doing a 77th fastest lap. If you get first, then you'll get a cash prize and things like this. So I find this is really good because it makes you, well, it kind of makes hot lapping really fun. And there's actually an option here for a ghost car. If you click on this, what will happen is you will race against other people's ghost cars in this event. So basically it starts you off with a lap time ghost car that's not that fast, and gradually will give you one that's faster and faster every time you beat it. Now this is a great idea because it makes hot lapping much more fun. I used to hate doing hot lapping, but this for me has made me interested in hot lapping, and it has been the main reason that I still play this game. So and really you can do quite a lot of events because they have so many events. You can do quite a lot of these events with the vehicles that are quite cheap. If you can't afford like to buy the expensive cars, you can always find some kind of event in here which is using the cheaper vehicles. Like for example, this Sierra RS500 is quite a cheap car. The Toyota I think is quite cheap. So you just, if you don't have a lot of money, it gives you an opportunity to play a racing game online cheaply, and you just have to be careful and plan out the cars that you buy. One issue I think that might be happening is, I think they have this thing where they're just adding lots of cars because that's the only way they make any money. It feels like they just keep adding more and more and more and more and more cars, which I feel like maybe at some point might become overkill because you end up with too many cars. I mean, if you see right now how many cars are in the game right now, it's quite a lot. See, we've got quite a big variety. We've got American muscle cars, we've got single seaters, we've got hatchbacks, we've got old kind of classic cars, sports cars, so many different kinds of cars, as you can see, which is great. But like I said, I feel like maybe they're just adding way too many, just because that's how they make their money. Yeah, but it depends really how you look at it. Yeah, of course. See, look, the cars just keep coming, and you see here they have like two versions of a very similar car, you see. So, and also here two versions of a very similar car. So yeah, I feel like maybe they're going a bit over the top with the amount of cars. But like I said, I think as long as you are selective with the cars that you buy, you can actually still play this game on a budget, and especially if you keep an eye out for the test drive Tuesday, it means you can actually get some of the more expensive cars on the cheap, so you don't only have to drive around in the cheapo cars. Okay, look, the cars are still going, so there's a lot of cars in this game, a lot. Okay, of course, you can do practicing, so you can choose any car and any track combination and practice offline, of course. So there you go. Just to quickly show you the tracks in the game, they have some which are fictional tracks. To be honest, they're fictional tracks, most of them are not very good, but more recently they've been having real life tracks, and the recent real life tracks I think are really good. I think they've really done a pretty good job kind of modeling them. They have my favorite track, or one of my favorite tracks, in Lime Rock Park. So yeah, I feel like for the price that you would pay for this game, it's a good selection of tracks. So yeah, I'm enjoying this game for the hot lapping, but like I said, the online racing is not that great, but you would hope as the game gets more and more popular that there are more races available with the quick race. Okay guys, so thank you for watching the video. I hope I have covered most of the important things about the game. Of course, I've probably forgotten something, some small detail, so if any of you guys have any questions, please feel free to answer them. Ask them in the comment section, or you can even send me a private message. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.